Welcome, everybody. First of all, Bitcoin has been really heating up on the volatility lately. So I just kind of want to take a look at a few different time frames, current positions, why I enter them, and start looking for similar setups on lower time frames and that sort of thing. Just to introduce myself, my name is Stu, or Stu Trading if you'd rather. I have my own small YouTube channel, Stu Trading. And I love trading shorter time frames, but I also obviously like checking on just to confirm my biases, checking on other time frames and stuff like that. So I'm basically just going to be freestyle live streaming, bringing you some chart volatility here, taking a look at some things live here, and hopefully be able to find some more setups. I'm currently actually in 3 positions. I'm going to explain why I'm in all of those. But yeah, just to get started, I mean, Bitcoin has seen a nice little uptrend today so far. And guys, this is just the 1 minute chart, okay? So something that I want to be clear about, and something that a lot of people are not, I guess, familiar with or just comfortable with, is if you're trading shorter time frames, I mean, it's definitely not for everybody, right? So if I'm entering positions, there's a good chance that within a couple of minutes, I'm already starting to downsize my positions. Because, and obviously, when I do them live here, I'll go through that. But yeah, just basically a little rule of thumb I have is just to help myself remember which time frame I'm trading, or just rather reminding myself when to take profits and downsize position depends on which time frame I'm on. So a general rule of thumb I like to use is just like, within 10 candles of whatever time frame I'm trading, I need to reconsider just what's going on. Should I be considering, closing half my position to make sure I pay myself and to reduce risk and that sort of thing? And then obviously a 5-minute chart, you'd obviously have a longer time period to do that, because 10 candles on a 5-minute is 5 times longer, right? On an hourly chart, yeah, just, then I have that bigger time frame before I feel like I have to start readjusting things. And that's not really a concrete rule or anything like that. It's just kind of in the back of my mind, just to help myself remember what time frame I'm playing. Like this, for example, I did enter a little bit of a short position very recently here. I'm going to talk about this setup because and this setup is going to come into play so many times when I do these live streams. This is my favorite trade setup. It actually just hit one of my TPs. Again, it's a very small profit, but it is what it is. It's a shorter time frame. It's a 1-minute chart. But what I refer to these, and I'm going to continue to refer to them, whether you think it's cheesy or not, but these are my Stuber fibs. And basically, that's the 786, 886 Fibonacci's. I know a lot of people prefer the 618. I personally find that, yes, the 618, it's respected quite well a lot of the times, but even if the candle bodies are respecting that, so often you're going to still test that 786 with a candle wick or something. So I just kind of find it helps to minimize my risk and just tighten up that stop loss a little bit and just maximize your profits, right? So generally speaking, it's not just any fib pull, obviously. I'm not just pulling random Fibonacci's and saying, hey, this 786, 886 has to reverse, kind of a thing. But in this case specifically, and why I just took this short recently, is because you see I have this red line here. So we had this little bit of an uptrend and just setting higher lows along the way. And this red line just represents the higher low of this trend that got broken, basically. And after that, that's where I start looking for those fib pulls. So I need that confirmation, and then I'm looking for that retrace, right? Because a big problem for most traders is FOMO, right? You always want to enter a position based on where the move is going. Not a lot of people like seeing those retraces, but I find using Fibonacci's really helps with that. So the Fibonacci tools are one of my favorite. I use them with a little bit of confluence with some indicators that I use, which I'm going to bring up in a little bit. You'll also see a 10% discount on those down below when I get into that here. But basically, yeah, I have my structure break, waiting for that pullback to at least the 786, entering my position, and then already hitting these other fibs. So The thing is with trading, and especially trading shorter time frames, I'm really looking at playing the range first and then hoping for a runner with the rest of my position. So I've already actually closed half of this short because that's why I have these other fibs here, right? This one is more so to reduce risk than anything. And then so I'm basically closing a quarter at the 0.5 usually, unless I'm quite confident, then I will wait till the 214. But then, yeah, TP2 is my 214 generally. So that's kind of where those Fibonacci levels comes from. And where that 214 fib comes from, by the way, is that probably sounds like a very random number. Not a lot of people talk about that one. That's not so much a retrace level I'm looking for. That's more of a target. And my reasoning for that is it's basically the reversal 786. Usually it front runs it a little bit. So if I'm looking for entries at the 786 with my Stuber setups there, then when I'm coming back to the opposite 786, that's where I'm starting to look for taking profits, right? And you can see that the 214 did front run that 786 just very slightly. So that's just kind of a quick explanation of why that number seems random, but that's where it comes from. So far the short is working out. I'm also, it's still in about a quarter of a long position that I took earlier this morning. My reasoning for that is, again, looking at these Fibonacci's, and something that I like to do with these quite often is one of my MDX Trendmaster tools here, the auto charting tools indicator. It points out higher lows, higher highs, lower highs, all that sort of thing. So often that signal can be used for confluence when looking for a trade setup, right? So we had this little downtrend here. We had this classic weekend pump and dump where we end up coming down to. You can see that we basically we end up breaking this low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. We end up breaking this level, and that's where I'm looking at, as I just mentioned, on the opposite end, a structure break followed by that Fibonacci pullback, right? And so on top, like I said, it's got the higher low signal. We had that little structure break. We pulled back to the 786 absolutely perfectly. So that's just a classic. That's one of my favorite trade setups. I take them all the time. I take several a day. And obviously they're not going to work out every time. That's why I have these invalidation fibs. That being said, take it for what it is. I leave wiggle room. This 115 is just a reminder to leave some wiggle room, because so often you'll see some sort of a liquidity grab below wherever our target is, for example. So that's just basically a reminder to leave some wiggle room. But obviously now my stop loss is in a profit and I have nothing to worry about on that position, because I've been taking profits along the way, because I am more of a scalper than a swing trader myself. But same thing here, you guys, just to kind of go over some examples and why I'm going to be talking about these setups so often is just look how often they play out, right? As we started that uptrend, here we have another high. We obviously broke it, set a higher high, higher low from here, taking a Fibonacci pull from that level to that level. Boom. Where do we find support? Right in that 786, 886. Again, not going to happen every time, but look at those beautiful moves. Nice tight invalidation, beautiful running position there. Another higher low signal takes off from there. Now, one thing I will say, these are lagging, so I'm not sure exactly what the confirmations are, but it's not going to show up at the exact time that candle closes or anything like that. So sometimes you're not going to catch it with that added confluence. But yeah, it's just something I really like looking for. And just kind of a way that I use one of the indicators that I've been using and lining it up with Fibonacci's. So that explains those two positions. Basically, another reason why I was looking for this short, actually, I want to go over to the 1 hour chart because looking at very similar structure, you can see that here we had our low, and here we had our lower low. Where's the highest point between the two? That's up here. So I'm going to pull a Fibonacci. Instead of looking for a bounce, I'm looking for a rejection, right? So I'm going to pull a Fibonacci from that lower high structure down to where we've bottomed out so far. And notice we're trading right inside that 786, 886 fib pocket. It's just a little bit of a red flag to me that, you know, maybe this is going to be the end of the rally fairly soon. That being said, like for those of you who follow along on my YouTube channel, I've been quite bearish for the last few weeks, and I'm going to go into why that is as well. But I absolutely see reasons why we could end up bouncing a little bit higher. You know, if this 1 hour fib does get invalidated, I mean, we could end up trending a lot higher, right? Because we had such a steep drop there. If we really zoom out here and we look at more so this as a lower low, this as a lower low, take our fib, notice the indicator also does state the lower high there. This is the 4 hour chart, so very significant as well. And if I pull a Fibonacci from there, I think it would make a lot of sense that we get some sort of a relief rally all the way up towards these levels, you know, all the way up towards our weekly open, July open, Q3 open. So there's a lot of things lining up with that. That's another one of those things, right? People are obviously starting to FOMO into shorts because people finally flipped bearish late. So there's going to be a lot of late shorts in the game. And, you know, they'll be trapped there if the market maker just ends up pushing us up towards these levels. So often when you start hitting these fib pockets, that's where people start getting FOMO. People start celebrating, but they're celebrating as we're trading towards resistance. So even if we do get some sort of a very nice bounce after the total anarchy that we've experienced lately in the charts, that I wouldn't be too surprised to see us get all the way up there, and I will still remain a little bit bearish in that case. You can see I have this other position up here. This is actually a beautiful short that I ended up taking just above 63.5. I'm going to show you this interesting chart pattern, and this is going to be why I have such a problem with Bitcoin right now. Well, I got to clean things up a little bit. Actually, no, that does have its purpose. I'm just going to get rid of that. My auto charting tools, I'm actually just going to get rid of these open levels just to clean things up a little bit, a little easier to look at. Going to bring up the RSI. So basically what we had here, I remember when we had this big dump to the downside initially, a lot of people were scared. And then I remember the celebrations happening as we were trading to the upside here. People were very quick to claim that was it. That was the bottom. But notice what happens here is here's my red line. We have that structure break where we lose that higher low structure. We get our pullback to that 786, 886 fib pocket. And then we just absolutely fell off a cliff. And to go with that, which is a very interesting signal with the RSI here, is this bearish divergence on the RSI. Now, I don't generally take any bearish divergence all too serious on its own or anything like that. But something that's interesting about this one is it comes from overextended territory down to the regular 70 level here. And that's just a very specific divergence that I've looked for years when looking for double tops. In this case, now looking at these Stuber fib pullbacks, stuff like that. Just seeing all those things line up together like that, I was extremely bearish as soon as that happened. And I mean, that trade, it was a 69x trade, just a degen move there. I saw it ended up hitting something over 1,000% on that one. I still have 10% of it running. Obviously, I never hit 1,000% on the entire position. I'm taking profits along the way, reducing risk and all that sort of stuff, because like I said, more of a scalper than a swing trader anyways. But just a very powerful reversal signal there with all those things lined up. We have the structure break, the Stuber fib pullback, the RSI, just kind of everything lining up there. And that brings me to the main problem that I have with Bitcoin. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to the 1 minute just to see what's going on the more live time stream here. Okay, perfect. Still playing out beautifully. So going back to that hourly signal, check out this weekly chart. I made a YouTube video about this 3 weeks ago. I believe it was June 13th. And it was called Nobody Wants to See This Bitcoin Chart or whatever. And I stand by that. But basically what happened is here we have the same thing, right? This is that same structure break. It's a little bit harder to see, but something I do quite often when I'm looking at charts is I remove the wicks. And it's just easier to see that structure, right? So you can see that we just had, you know, higher high, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And we did technically get that little higher high which means we had a higher low here. Now, yes, this is microanalyzing a little bit. This is looking at the direct swing. It's not looking at the entire market structure. It is just the immediate swing in play. But this is one of my favorite setups. I talk about it every week on my YouTube channel. Generally speaking, I'm looking for this kind of a structure break and fib pullback on a 5-minute chart. But like I just showed, I entered a position on it on the hourly chart, and to see it on the weekly chart, I mean, it's just not looking good in my opinion, you guys. We broke that structure again. Look where we end up pulling back to. Just going to pull a Fibonacci from where we topped out to where we bottomed out after finding a little bit of a bounce after that structure break. And look at that. Look where we end up getting rejected there. Just perfect. Those wicks filling the 786, 886 fib pocket absolutely perfectly. Candle bodies can't even close up inside there. Just a classic short setup that I love on any time frame. And to see it on the weekly like that, I got insanely bearish at that point. I can't lie, because on top of that, that exact RSI divergence as well, right? Extreme overextended conditions down to that 70 level, and it just looks like it's falling off a cliff. So I am a little bit worried about Bitcoin moving forward. I'm not going to lie. If I just zoom out and look at the last times this has happened, that's with all those signals together. I mean, it's called for some very significant pullbacks. I don't necessarily think this bull market is over. I want to be very clear about that, but I think a severe correction is not out of the question. And what's alarming about that is if I was looking at this on a 5-minute chart, I would be looking at it as, hey, here's our high, here's our higher high, here's our higher low. Well, you probably know what I'm going to say with this is that's where I'm going to pull my Fibonacci from if we do end up getting that nuke. You know, again, it does not have to happen. But if this were any other time frame, I would really be eyeing up these levels for an entry. So I know right now it feels unrealistic, and I myself don't necessarily think that it's probable we go down there, but the possibilities are there, and we've seen it before. You can see right here, we had the same type of thing. Actually, right here, perfect example. And I can just eyeball where the Fibonacci ended up here. Look at this. We get that structure break. We come back down, pull our fibs. Look where we end up finding support. Our wicks basically just past the 886, candle bodies respect the 786. So hopefully you're starting to see at this point why I think this is such a significant signal and why I look for those Fibonacci's on every time frame. Because generally speaking, market structure is going to act the same, whether it's a weekly, a 1 minute, a 5-minute, hourly, whatever. Structure acts the same. It just obviously takes a lot longer to play out. So even if we get some sort of a recovery right now, I'm not going to be insanely bullish unless we actually close higher highs. We close higher highs, then you know what? That bearish theory goes right out the window. And before I sound total doomsday on you here, it is mentioned that, you know, there's signs of recovery, right? Basically, my first target has been hit. So it is possible that this move is already done. Last week, I was saying in my YouTube video, we did have this downward sloping trend line. I was looking at it more on the daily chart. It was really grasping at straws here, but basically trying to find some sort of a downward support angle, and as well basically mapped out this support box. Well, this whole trade range that we had back here, because this was one of the only times we kind of consolidated for a little bit, or one of the more recent times we consolidated on the weekly chart. So that actually lined up beautifully. You know, we wicked right to that level with double confluences there. I was fully expecting some sort of a good reaction from the bulls at that level. And that's why I barely have any of that short open anymore from 63.5K. I only have about 10% running at this point, because there's absolutely the possibility that we just end up mooning from here. I personally don't really expect it, but I'm happy to be wrong, right? That's why we have invalidations. You know, if structure changes, you know, we set some sort of a lower high, lower low, and then break a lower high and start staircasing higher like that, then you know what? Then I'm going to be playing the bullish trend again. But as it stands right now, just things don't look that great for Bitcoin. On the daily chart here, same with that auto charting tools. Once again, we have this lower high signal. So yeah, where would it make sense to find some sort of a bounce to? again, this fib pocket here, kind of looking at that, well, 68 to 69,000. Do you know how insanely bullish people are going to be if we get back to those levels? And it would be the perfect liquidity grab. Let's just see liquidation levels. I want to zoom in a little bit here, see if we can find any high leverage liquidity levels. Actually, I'm going to go back to my other chart and then bring it up here. Yeah, so far so good. Basically what I'm going to do now when I get into scalps like this, I basically change or just chase the market structure. So, you know, as we trade down on this downward trend here, I'm basically going to just right now, here's our low. Looks like we're going to set a lower low here. For now, I'm going to say our lower highs right here. I'm going to make it a red line just because we have this low, lower low, lower high. So basically, if we start closing candle bodies above this line, then I'm just going to take profits on the rest of my position, consider it a win, and wait for the next target, right? Because that's the thing, guys. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're trading the 1 minute chart, don't be looking for a 4-hour swing. That's totally why most people don't like trading shorter time frames. I mean, don't get me wrong, it can lead to bad habits like over trading, over leveraging, revenge trading, all that stuff that as traders we're supposed to avoid. But you know, that's just something that goes wrong with a lot of traders because they're looking for massive moves off of a shorter time frame entry, and that's just not realistic, right? So that's why I said earlier, just remember to play what time frame you're actually playing, and remember to trade the range first. And you know, actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to update my stop loss. I'm going to set half my stop loss up here, and then I'm going to leave half my stop loss at break even, because there's a chance we get some sort of a fake out. We do break above this, but then we just break structure again right away and carry on down. And just since I do have that little bit of a bearish bias, I do want to try and catch another nuke in the market if possible. So I am going to just update half of my stop loss. And then I have nothing to worry about. Then I know that no matter what happens, I'll be taking some profits on this position. But yeah, basically that's what I'm looking at right now. Let's just see what happens here. That's the 1 minute. Let's hop over to the 5 minute. Generally speaking, I prefer to trade the 5 minute. It's my favorite because it's still a degenerate time frame. A lot happens. You get a lot of entries and that sort of thing if you do have some systems in place. But I find, like, obviously the lower time frame, when you start getting to the 1 minute and stuff, you have to be able to react so fast, right? And that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is, you know, trading, it's so much more important to be able to react than predict. You know, you can make predictions all day long, but if you don't know how you're going to react to those predictions, then you're not necessarily going to be profitable, right? Because I mean, if, let's just say, you know, hey, we're trading to the downside here, break this little bit of structure. Oh, hey, we're probably going to be going a little bit lower. But then people are going to be FOMOing into shorts kind of a thing. Then you bounce up here. People start getting FOMO to the upside as you approach that super fib. Then they get dumped on. You know, that just, it does happen. So, yeah, right now it's still looking pretty good. Yeah, like I said, I like the 5 minute personally, but it's obviously more exciting to have the 1 minute open while I'm doing this live. But yeah, we're just kind of chopping around sideways right now. But again, we're still holding below that red line. So still looks good for that short so far. I'm going to bring up a few indicators, you guys. As mentioned, there is if you're interested in some of the indicators I'm about to mention here, there's a 10% discount down below that you get at checkout. And that's on top of current promotions for the MDX Trendmaster charting tools indicators. But there's a lot of them that I really like here for several different reasons. I already showed you the auto charting tools, very customizable. You can add a whole bunch of different features. You can have automatic Fibonacci's pulled up, automatic trend lines pulled up, all sorts of crazy ways that you can modify these indicators. And there's a whole handful of them. But So the auto charting tools is the one that I was already talking about. There's a whole slew of them here, and very unique, very unique indicators, everything from trend collection, buy and sell signals. We got there's indicators that show the inflow and outflow of ETFs. There's liquidity levels. There's so many interesting and actually very useful indicators in here. So if that is something that you're interested in, check it out down below. That being said, speaking of the indicators, that trend collection indicator, this is another thing going for the bulls right now, is we did technically find support along this beautiful buy trend here. And on the weekly chart, you guys, these have been very powerful signals. Oh, I just love the way that these colors make these charts look too. I'm actually going to remove all my drawings just to clean things up a little bit here. But just look how on these longer time frames, how powerful these buy and sell signals have been, as far as spot buys and stuff like that. Obviously, it's harder to trade with leverage on a weekly chart kind of a thing. But basically, this would have been the first signal ever out of this indicator. Beautiful buy entry, sell signal right before that infamous descending triangle after our 20K blow off top there. Another buy signal. Basically, the only signal on this entire Bitcoin's history chart that I see is the COVID dump basically tricked this indicator, and it thought that we were going to start a downtrend, but it was quickly invalidated with a higher buy signal. Again, beautiful sell signal for our previous bear market, and our bull market, again, beautiful buy there. So we do still technically have this weekly buy trend here. So that's just another sign that, hey, maybe the bulls aren't dead yet. Maybe there is still going to be some sort of recovery. I still have my worries because of, what I showed you just earlier. But, the signs are there right now that at least there is some signs of life, right? Here's a good example of the liquidations tool rather. Remove some drawings. Actually, the legend never came up here. Let me bring up the liquidations indicator. Take a second to load here. Or it's not going to load. Well, maybe I shouldn't have deleted that. There we go. Let's just put it back. Either way, these brown and yellow goldish lines here, those are the high leverage liquidity grabs. So, there's quite often when you're going in a certain direction, it happens quite often where you'll push a little bit past resistance and stuff like that. Like if we are going to respect this as resistance at some point, it would make a lot of sense to get some sort of a failed break of that level, just grab some of that liquidity and then head down and, do the same thing on the other end, right? Grab some of that liquidity and rinse and repeat kind of a thing. So very interesting tools there. Let's just, that's the 5-minute chart. Just going to turn off the trend collection here. Let's go to the 1 minute. One strategy that I've really liked using with these indicators, and I've been using them for almost 2 years now, is just noticing which way these W's are trending. And again, just like any indicator, anything in general, it's not going to work out every single time, but just as much as entries as also taking profits, risk management, downsizing positions, stuff like that. I love using these W's, and this is the trend dynamic tool. This is the reversal warnings, the yellow reversal warnings, hence the W. But basically looking which way they're trending, right? You can see here that as we trended to the upside, here I can delete some of these as well, just to clean things up a little bit. You can see that on this trend, basically since down, where would it have started? Basically since back here, these W's have been trending to the upside. Here we had a little bit of a fake out where this is one of those times where it would have been a little bit of a warning if I was in a long position, that I'd be downsizing a little bit because we have these downward sloping W's. Just a little bit of a warning that there may be a trend shift, but then you can see it was quickly invalidated. W's start trending to the upside again. So just kind of helping point out which way that you should be trading the market. And then here you can see that we're starting to see warning signs, which is great for the short position that I just took, is that these W's are starting to look like they're trending to the downside again. I wouldn't personally be looking to take a short right now just because this move has already started from the fib pullback. But something that would be interesting to watch for would be, you know, if we do get some sort of a bounce and then we see another W come into play, that might just be, hey, we have lower W's on the downside and a lower W on the upside, where that, hey, this might just be a beautiful downtrend and that could be a beautiful short entry, especially when that lines up with something like the 786, 886 fib pocket. I mean, that's just additional confluence that I love to see in my trade, in my positions. So we're going to have to see what happens with that. But so far, so good. Looks like we're trending to the downside. If we start trending W's to the upside again, I'll probably look at closing more of my position, to be honest. Trend collection, you can see that we're still holding this sell signal. Something that I like to do with this indicator specifically is I don't take, and this goes for every indicator, you guys, and to each their own. Everybody has their own trade styles that work for them, because we could have the same charts, same trend lines, same indicators, same absolutely everything, and I can guarantee we would trade the market completely different. So me personally, I don't really take this signal all too serious on its own. It's nice for that additional confluence that, hey, if we break above these levels here, that maybe it's a good idea that I do have half my stop loss up there, right? But what I more so like to see, especially when looking for entries rather than risk management, that's where I like to see which way they're trending, just like the W's. Here, I'll actually turn off the W's. I'm going to turn off these things here. The reason I'm not taking this sell signal all too serious on its own right now is just because it's higher, right? It's a higher sell signal. So there's, even though it is a sell signal, it's trending to the upside. I look at pretty much every indicator that way, to be honest. What else? Yeah, this trend dynamic, that's probably my favorite indicator. I use it all the time. I love those reversal warnings. It just makes the charts look absolutely beautiful. There's a few different options I have here. Can change colors a little bit. Give it a second to load here. So yeah, there's a couple very fancy looking charts. I'm pretty easy to please that way. But yeah, beautiful indicators. And like I said, there's a whole slew of them that really help in my scalping, but I only use a small handful of them. So yeah, so far this is still looking beautiful to see the sell signal holding with my lower high signal here, basically, or lower high trend line. It's just nice to have that additional confluence from the indicators, right? Yeah, I'd really love to see the price just dump off a cliff right now. That would be absolutely beautiful. Just reload these so I have my fibs and stuff pointed out. So the thing to remember here, you guys, is support until it's broken, and we're obviously trading at the bottom of this range. And, you know, if I were to pull a Fibonacci from the opposite direction here, you can see that, yeah, you know, entering in this 786, 886 fib pocket for a long position may not be a terrible idea. It's just that it doesn't have the structure break that I'd want to confirm that. Like I said, I generally, when I'm looking for that fib pocket, I'm not just looking for a random fib pull. I want to see an actual structure break. And basically, that means that I want to see a break above this high here. So if we set a higher high like that, then I can pull a Fibonacci from here if I'm looking for a Stuber fib setup, something like that. Very theoretical at this point, obviously, just kind of looking ahead and how I want the market structure to play out before I would actually consider that a successful Stuber fib. Yeah, the 786, 886 very often does just work out in general, just because, you know, it's kind of bouncing around in a range like this. It just doesn't meet my criteria for hoping to catch a runner, basically, because I want to see that break of structure before getting that pullback, just so that, if the trend is going to continue with that structure break, then you're getting a very nice entry with very minimal risk, right? Let's go back to, let's just reload it again. Reload it to how I had it, because I'm still sticking with the bearish scenario for now. Let me get that lower high line back on there quick. And it's crazy. Like when you get into a trending market, even on the 1 minute like this, I know I was doing a stream the other day and on my YouTube channel, and I was following the price like this with lower high structure, just basically itching to start taking profits on the position that I had opened, because I wanted to end the video. And I just wanted to at least lock in some profits before doing that. And the trend just kept going. Even the 1 minute I think that was on Thursday, in that Thursday sell-off chaos, for about an hour and a half, the 1 minute couldn't even break lower high structure. So it, like I said, structure kind of works the same on all time frames, right? So, basically, if we break this structure, I'll be looking to close a little more in my position, or that half of my position rather. Just looking kind of weak, even though we did have that pump this morning, we don't really have a lot of price action here, a lot of straight sending to the upside. And obviously it's a 1 minute, take it for what it is. But if we kind of lose these support levels, it's a very quick flush down to this green box here. And you might be able to guess at this point, if you've been paying attention, where do you think this green box comes from? That would be basically looking at this type of a structure. If this was my high, higher low, looking at pulling a Fibonacci, something like so, hence my green box down here. So, we come down to these levels, I will absolutely be closing some of my short position as well, just because I think there's a good chance we would find some sort of support there, some sort of a reaction, even if it doesn't stick. Just so often you'll get some kind of a reaction at that 786. So just to reduce risk, pay myself and all that sort of good stuff. That's kind of my target for this short, basically. Whether or not it happens, I'm going to take profit either way. But that's kind of my target. Hopefully that kind of makes sense for you guys. Just gonna kind of babysit this on the 1 minute chart for a little while. I'm gonna flip flop between a few different time frames. Sometimes it's just good to get a refresher looking at different time frames, just in case something catches your eye, right? Like this morning, I was actually quite hesitant to short this morning, until like I said, we have that structure break, pulling that Fibonacci. We are trading right in that 786, 886 on the 1 hour. So even though it's not invalidated as far as like how I like my setups until way up here, it's still just so often if there's going to be a strong trend and it's going to continue, you're going to see a rejection in this pocket. So just another reason why I was already looking for shorts then there, and then zooming into the shorter time frames, obviously, right? But yeah, let's see what the next few minutes here do, what they say. Let's turn some of these indicators back on. Yeah, you can see a sell signal so far looking like it's curling to the downside. And right now, this invalidation level of that indicator lining up directly with my lower high. Now, obviously, we could wick past that, get some sort of a swing fail, a fake out, liquidity grab, whatever you want to call it. So I do always leave my stop loss a little bit looser. But so far that's looking great. Bunch of W's trending to the downside. RSI kind of in no man's land right now. There is a little bit of a bullish divergence here, but again, it's me personally, I don't look for just any divergence. I love to see those overextended ones. I think that there's a lot of room, especially right now where selling pressure has gone so nuts recently. I think it's absolutely possible that the RSI would drop into oversold conditions and then get, that kind of a divergence. That's where I'd be more so as long as it lined up with, like, let's say a double bottom, pullback to, let's say the RSI does that actually, but it's doing that down here. I would absolutely love to take a long position at that. Just having that confluence of the RSI divergence like that lining up with the Fibonacci level, I think that's absolutely a possibility at this time. We're going to have to see how it plays out over the next few hours, but because nothing has to happen, right? And that's why I said earlier that, especially when trading shorter time frames, you guys, so much more important to be able to react than predict, because this 1 minute chart, the structure can change in the next 2 minutes like nothing. I mean, that happens on the 1 minute chart all the time. And that's why, trading the 1 minute isn't for everybody. Especially if you're, like, I trade shorter time frames so often that, I can see something, I can pull up a chart and I can pretty quickly eyeball if I'm going to be around the fib levels that I want to see. And if I decide within the first few seconds, hey, I want to take a position here, I can be in that position within a few seconds, basically, because I've just done it so many times and I trade shorter time frames so much. But if you're the type of person who it takes a few minutes to enter a position or make up your mind about it and then enter, you're 5 minutes later or whatever, I mean, that move could have come and gone if you're on a shorter time frame, right? Just going to extend this a little bit because we're starting to flirt with the bottom of it here. And then my lower high actually, well, now that we've actually broken lower, I'm going to turn off my indicators just so I see the colors a little better here. This is very micro analyzing again, but just since it's a 1 minute and to maximize my profits here, I'm going to update my stop loss again because we have this low here. We do have a lower low, and now we're setting another lower low. So I'm going to drop my red line to here. And if we start closing candle bodies above that, or, I'm going to leave a little wiggle room on my partial stop loss. But if we even close a candle just above this, I will absolutely be closing half my position just in case. Let me just, on my other device here, just getting some orders ready so that I am ready. But even with this, like, yeah, a lot of people might think that I'm microanalyzing this and this is a little bit ridiculous, but I'm just showing it for what it is, and just look how even after that tiny little structure break, every structure break counts, you guys. And, yes, they can be very small sometimes, but they still get respected so often. I would not be surprised at all to see this act as resistance right now. If it doesn't, boom, gonna take some profits. But yeah, I think there's, like I said, with the RSI, I think there's absolutely room that we could drop to the downside there. Don't have to, because I'm never going to use something like this on the RSI as concrete evidence that I should be in any position, really. Like, that's not really telling me much, but it is the only thing it's telling me is that there is room either direction, basically. It's not overextended by any means anywhere. So yeah, let's just see what happens there. Auto charting tools, we haven't got a lower high signal yet or anything. You can see that we are actually trading just below this higher low signal. So I would not at all be surprised to see this start trending to the downside a little more aggressively. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm protected at this point, and we'll just see what happens. What else can I bring up here? Oh, all those liquidation indicators did show up. Good. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart here just to see what the heck's going on, because the 4-hour, I personally think the 4-hour is a great time frame that honestly, most people should probably stick to trading something more like a 4 hour. There's just a lot more time for things to happen. It's a lot more of a relaxed pace. Me personally, I just am more of a scalper. I'm honestly more comfortable just getting in and getting out of the market rather than having one of those nice relaxed positions. But that's why, like I said, I usually close half my positions quick and treat them as a scalp. And if I catch a runner with the other half of my position, then great. Then that's fantastic and I have nothing to worry about. But for most people, honestly, I kind of feel the 4 hour. I'd be looking at basically this level as potential resistance, and we're just kind of getting up to that level, right? Basically looking at this as our little order block that ended up pushing us down through resistance here, or through support rather. That's basically where we topped out, pushed through support. So yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised, again, just for all the other reasons already shown on different time frames, but also this. I just think it would make a lot of sense if the downtrend is going to continue immediately. Basically this would be the level I'd be looking at for resistance. That being said, it's absolutely possible we pump a little bit higher because some sort of a swing fail like that and then retest it. I mean, that could be a very bearish sign as well. But we're just going to have to see what happens, right? Like I said, I mostly trade the 5 minute, the 1 minute stuff like that as well. I just like to kind of keep these levels on different time frames in my in my view. You can see the sell signal actually on the 4 hour also lining up with that box here. Man, look at that signal. Hey, get the lower high signal, a sell signal, just absolutely nuked the price with that sell signal. Beautiful. Got a high or got a buy, but it's a lower buy. Then we got a lower sell, just nuke some more. So a very powerful signal there. Oh, we broke above there. I am closing half that short position. Just in case. That's the thing with trading with high leverage. You got to protect yourself, right? And this is a 25x trade, so fairly high leverage for most people. But yeah, and my stop loss on the rest of my position is going to be at basically break even. That way, you know what? I made sure that I locked in some profits. I still think that there's a good chance we do find resistance up at this level more so because that's more so the lower high of an actual range. But just very micro analyzing, making sure I lock in some profits. That's kind of my reasoning there. And now, you know what? If we continue to the downside, I don't care. That's why I left half my position open. I am very rarely one of those people who opens and closes their entire position at one level. When I'm looking at entering a short, I'm looking at entering just before the 786, 886 up here and basically laddering in as we get towards my invalidation levels generally. And same thing with taking profits. I like to just kind of take little nibbles as I go, leave some run, because then if you're not going to, how do I say this? You're most likely going to get wrecked if you chase home run trades, right? If you're looking for those home runs, most often markets are trading sideways. There's a lot more chop than there is trending. And that's just why I always say that I make sure that I play the range first. And after that point, then hoping for that home run hit with the rest, right? So yeah, that's basically where I stand right now. You kind of know what I'm looking for in this position here. Well, now I'm in 3 positions, so that's always a good problem to have, though, especially when they're all profitable and you don't have anything to worry about. But yeah, look at that. So even with that little tiny structure break there, we're already starting to see a little bit of strength. Whether or not the bulls can actually, continue staircasing higher here, there's an obvious, just a little bit of a reaction now that we've broke that. So we'll see if they can regain anything there. I'm personally hoping they don't, because I have 2 short positions open and only 1 long position. um, but yeah, that's what I'm looking at for now. Anyways, legends, I think I'm going to kind of wrap up here. Again, if you're interested in trying out these indicators, plus many more, like I showed, that there's a whole bunch in here, very useful, all for their own reasoning. And yeah, if you want an additional 10% discount on top of the existing promos on checkout, there's a link down below for that. As well, be sure to check out my YouTube channel as well. Sometimes I do some live streams there, or just shorter analysis videos and that sort of thing, just kind of keeping you up to date with what I'm doing. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. Hopefully you found it a little bit entertaining. Hopefully you learned something from it. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.